I'll tell people, go for a walk, get outside and let your brain do its thing because it's magical. Whereas I see more extroverted coaches would be like, right, instantly put it out there, just do it. You've got everything in action. And I'm very much for moving from thought into action. But I feel we have to honor that introvert side and allow the time we naturally want, because most of us are quite perfectionist in nature. So I see my job as an introvert focused coach is to absolutely allow you the time to think, but not too much time. I don't want you to overthink. I don't want you to procrastinate. So it's being able to know and pull the right strings in the right sequence.
Hello, and welcome to episode 105 of the Quiet and Strong podcast, especially for introverts. I'm your host, David Hall, and the creator of quietandstrong.com. This is a weekly podcast dedicated to understanding the strengths and needs of introverts. Introversion is not something to fix, but to be embraced. Normally, we'll air each episode on a Monday. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite platform. Leave a review. That would mean a lot to me. Tell a friend about the podcast. Help get the word out there that introversion is a beautiful thing. Susanna Reay is an award-winning business coach specializing in frameworks. She is a speaker and author who over the last 20 years has mentored entrepreneurs globally to sell their services online. Susanna's unique Sparkle frameworks bring visual focus and clarity out of complex service offers, enabling clients to scale their business with ease. As an introvert herself and the founder of the Introvert Way, all her training programs are introvert-friendly, allowing you time and space to think, but also be held accountable to take action. All right. Welcome to the Quiet and Strong podcast, Susanna. I'm excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you, David. I'm really happy to be here. And yeah, congratulations on being in the second set of 100s now with the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. So we'll do the next 100 now. We're going to get into the great work you do supporting introverts in business. But before we do that, tell us about yourself. What point did you determine you were an introvert and how did you embrace that?
Well, for me, my story starts way younger than a lot of people who I talk to, because I think it was around 14 years old. And I've always had a huge curiosity for learning and reading. And like every good introvert, I found myself in a bookstore, or I think it might have been the library actually. And I came across the psychology part of the library, and that's when my love for psychology actually triggered at the same time. And I was reading about Carl Jung and personalities and all the work that he had done, and then it suddenly clicked that I was like, that is why I'm coming home from school. And literally I'd get home from school in the UK, we're normally done by 3:30, you're home by 4, and I was sleeping for 2 hours before dinner because I was exhausted. And it wasn't because I wasn't then sleeping at night. I was. And it all really clicked for me at that sort of age of going, oh, yeah, this is me, because I've never been shy. I've never been socially awkward. I was like, none of those things. I'd be full on in doing all the arts and the drama and everything at school, but I'd come home exhausted. So it was very much that sort of early age. So it allowed me to embrace that quite early on as well, in terms of when I then left home and went to university or worked, of being able to go, no, you know what? I don't want to do that social thing. Or if I'm going to do it, I would block out like the next day. If I went out on a Saturday night, I was not committing to anything on a Sunday, because I knew I then needed that time inwardly to recharge. So I found myself quite lucky understanding that quite early on.
Yeah, that is lucky because that is the story I hear often. It's more people are figuring things out in their 30s and 40s and beyond. So that is great. And it sounds like you're always confident, which is awesome because that's a misconception. Definitely there are introverts that need to learn about their introversion to gain that confidence. Some are always confident, which like yourself, but it sounds like early on you figured out your needs, which is another really important part of all this. If you need a break, it's normal, and too often we think there's something wrong with us, but that's so amazing that you figured that out really early on, and too many people are not figuring it out at 14, so that's great.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So having spoken to lots of introverts, and my clients are 80% introverts as well, that everyone's like, wow, that's quite early. And I also still, though, to this day, I do get people going, no, no way, you're not an introvert, because it's so strongly related with like, as you say, the myth that you referred to about being shy, socially awkward, you can't talk. But in my experience, introverts, particularly in a one-on-one conversation, you can't stop us talking if it's about a subject we're passionate about and we're really interested in. If it's the weather, a party, you're just flitting around like a butterfly, not so interested. I will go quiet in those situations. I'll just sit in a corner. I'll happily talk to anyone who comes to me, but I'm not going to be buzzing around that room.
Yeah, it's funny when people say things like that, like, "You can't be an introvert," and it's continuing that myth that we don't like people because that's ridiculous. We do. We just need some time to think, and some things, like you said, talking about the weather may not be that interesting. Like in our case today, we're having a great time talking about introversion and something that we're very passionate about. Is there any other myths about introversion you want to bust today? That's definitely a good one.
I think that is for me the biggest one. It's about, yeah, sort of not being able to talk as well. I think that's the one that gets my goat the most in business as well. When they go, oh, you're quiet. It's like you're always quiet. And I'm like, well, I'm not, but I'm not prone to interrupt other people. And I think this is something that I see very much when you've got a full room or even a small group, that you might be in just a group of 3 or 4, and someone who's more extroverted is busy filling all the silences, whereas the introverts are more, they're listening, they're observing, and then when they feel there's space in the conversation, then you'll step up and talk. But it's not that you don't want to talk. And I'm like, I want to talk, but countless times I felt interrupted by people more extroverted. Basically, it felt like they were butting in and therefore not respecting what I had to say. And I've since sort of learned, in the study, that actually that's the extrovert's enthusiasm for what you're saying, that they're not disregarding it. They're just so excited that they want to join in as well. So there are these two sides, and yeah, sort of dispelling the myth of shy, socially awkward, unconfident, quiet, because yes, I can be quiet for hours at a time, but that's not my default demeanor
Yeah,
necessarily.
it doesn't mean shy. Quiet
Yeah.
doesn't mean shy. So, and that's the other thing too. It's extroverts are thinking out loud, that's their way. And we're taking everything in, we're thinking about things and coming up with a succinct, articulate answer. And we're not sharing everything, but we're saying what we think is most important. And a lot of times that could be misunderstood. And the great thing is, if someone is shy, that can be overcome. They can learn confidence if they haven't learned confidence already. They can learn confidence. And that's a lot about what this podcast is about.
Yeah, that is so true. Is the difference between your personality, they're your natural tendencies. That's how you're born. And it's when people say, oh, I can pretend to be extroverted. I'm like, no, you can't. You can't. You could pretend to be confident. You could pretend to be outgoing, but that doesn't mean you're extroverted. And so, yeah, there's little things like that. I'm always going, no, you can be. And there's so many wonderful tools and ways of helping an introvert become confident to speak up about what's going on inside of them now. That There really is. It is a journey. But you can be shy and an extrovert. You can be shy and
Oh,
an
yeah,
introvert. They're not
absolutely.
mutually exclusive.
Right. This is a lot of what I'm working on too. We got to stop calling being social extroverted because it's not. It's
Oh,
and I think you're describing it very well. And if we're outgoing, that doesn't mean extrovert. These other things where you're spending a lot of time in thought or thinking out loud, you know, those things are kind of what makes the difference. It's not if we're social. And again, you're describing that very well.
yeah, it's actually one of the nicknames for a while when I was introducing myself. Probably it was about 5 years ago when I felt I was like hitting these doors a lot more. I'd start by going, "Hi, I'm Susanna. I'm a sociable introvert." And people are like, "How's that work?" I was like,
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
happily. I just go to sleep and I'll leave the party earlier than the rest, probably. I'm not the
right.
one who's going to be dancing till 3 in the morning because my sort of social battery will diminish fast, but doesn't mean I don't love meeting people, collaborating with people, connecting. And I feel in business, you need those attributes. It's very hard, I think, creating any form of successful business if you don't have any inclination to connect with other people. Because
Yeah,
ultimately, what's business? It's people to people, right?
that's what it is. And we want relationships. It's just the amount and the doses of relationships might look a little different, but we need relationships. We want relationships. For introverts that struggle with building relationships, what's some keys that you've learned?
So for me, one of the things I've loved with the advent of the internet, and I've been working online for 20 years now, I started sort of 2022, is the joy of emails and text messages, and now with direct messaging, is for me, that is a barrier that's way, way easier to reach out and connect with someone than the old way of picking up a phone. I still hate lifting up a phone and doing those horrible, horrible things called cold calls. I would never, ever recommend that. And I think it's because it's important. I think when you're introverted, because you really honor and respect and need your quiet time, you don't want to interrupt other people's quiet time. And that's basically what a phone call does if it's not scheduled. However, you can reach out with direct messaging, say, "Hey, it'd be lovely to connect. Let's hop on a call," and you can schedule it. And then it makes things a lot easier because you also know what the call's about. You've got some expectations, you know what's going to be expected from you. So just little things like just paving the way of saying, with this online world where a lot of relationships start. I mean, that's how we met, David, is like through an online system. It's like, send a message, say, "Hey, I'm interested. Do you fancy doing something? Or I think we could have a strategic alliance going on here. But let's hop on a call and explore it." Because the one thing I've learned in all the relationship building I've done is every human has so much depth to them. They are more than one thing, and they might be showing themselves online as one thing. And women actually in business are particularly more this way, that you'll get on a call and they'll go, "Oh, yes, I've got like 3 businesses. And I'm only talking about this one on LinkedIn, but across on Instagram, I'm running a different business and I'm doing something else over here." So it's reaching out and building the relationships and not being afraid of doing them one at a time. So for me as an introvert, it's having one-to-one conversations rather than going into big networking rooms where, you've all got a minute to spout something, but by the time the fifth person said something, you've forgotten what number one said. And it doesn't benefit our brains. We like deeper, longer conversations. And to be honest, they're the relationships that will help and support you in your business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. Some things aren't really made for us. The bouncing around from person to person, and that's not our strength and not that effective. If I'm walking to a room of 50 strangers, I want to have a couple really good conversations. And it could be with someone I know, it could be with somebody new, but I want to build a deeper relationship. So well said.
An extra tip actually there that's just come to my mind,
Yeah.
that if you do have an opportunity and you're listening to this and you're going, oh, I'm going to this networking space, is build the relationship with the host of that network first. So ask them before the event, hey, can I just have a one-to-one call with you just to understand a bit more and have the expectations? And then in that one-to-one call with the host, you can share what you might be looking for or who you might like to connect with. And then it's the host's biggest pleasure because they're hosting a networking event because they're natural connectors and they want to connect you. And that means when you come into that room or space, they will see you and they'll make that connection for you. So you're not walking up to a complete stranger. Instead, you're saying, hey, this is Susanna, meet David. You've both got introversion in common. I'll leave you to it. And they've broken the ice for you.
Yeah. That's great advice. Great advice. So definitely on this show, we talk about the strengths and needs of introverts. We bust some myths. We talk about strategies for success, which we're definitely going to get into. But before we do that, what is a strength or two of yours as an introvert, or what have you seen in other introverts that you've worked with that is a strength?
Reflection and deep thought, I see as a huge strength because we naturally look inwards first. We tend to be very good at creating great processes and systems because we've looked at things from all sides and it's been thought about carefully. There is a flip side to this. Sometimes it goes too much the other way and it's into overthinking and procrastination, which then stops you sort of testing things and bringing it out there. But I do think that reflection and deep thought is a core introvert superpower, along with listening. And listening, I think, can be really undervalued, but as long as it's active listening. So it's not just listening and thinking about a million things in your head at the same time, but really leaning in and understanding what your clients and your customers need. And then you reflect on it. And long as you do, step number 3, which is move into action, it gives a really nice framework for introverts to be very successful in business. And there's a wonderful statistic that I think 90% of billionaires are introverts.
I hadn't heard that. I believe it.
Yeah, well, people like Warren Buffett and
Yeah.
there's the huge billionaires out there. And I think it's because they reflect, they've got the deep thinking, they lean in, they listen, because with a successful business, that's what you have to do. You have to respond to the client's needs, to the marketplace, to what's happening in the world. So you've got to be very much a mirror to everything that's going on around you. And introverts are great at that because they do sit back, listen, reflect, observe. And long as in the business sense, you then take that into action, you're going to be successful.
Yeah. And those are definitely some great gifts that we have. I'm really glad that you clarified the listening, that you said it was active listening, because so often people say, well, introverts are great listeners. But like you said, not if there's a million other things going on in their head and there's just because somebody else is talking. So I'm really glad that you made that distinction because I don't think it is automatic. I think that, I want to be a good listener, but because I'm actively listening, like you're saying, and we can be great observers, but just because someone else is talking a lot, we could not be there present with them. And so it's really important. Yes, it could be a great skill, but it has to be active. You have to be paying attention and observing, and we can be great observers and find some things that other people haven't.
Yeah, very much so. And yeah, it's about the energy piece as well when we talk about introversion, because for me, the true definition of introversion is related around how we harness our energies. And I also feel that working online is a huge leveler for introverts, because when we work online, you have a choice. You have a choice when you're going to show up, how you show up, how long you're going to be there, what you're going to say. It's very different because you can balance your working week, as well as I do this in my own diary, of having inward time and outward time to make sure that when I'm there for my clients, I'm at my best. And so it's understanding. I think actually understanding your energies again can become a superpower once you've learned how to harness it. I don't see it as a negative. I see it very much as a positive, that you're then sort of pulling your energies to the right place so you can then show up and present as your best self. But then you can step away. And gosh, in the early days of my business, when I was maybe not being quite so good at keeping my own boundaries intact in terms of trying to do too much too soon, there were times I've crashed out and gone to sleep in the middle of the day because I've just gone, my body literally shuts down. I get to a point, and it's moments like that when I go, oh, okay, like I might have the enthusiasm, but my introversion kicks in and goes, you've got to stop. And that's when I started working far more online rather than working in offices and with people, because I realized just having lots of people around me and distracting me was draining my energy as well.
Yeah, and get it on your calendar. Make some time to recharge. And I'll also say it's definitely about recharging, but it's also figuring out those things that, you do your best work
Mm.
alone. You do your best work planning. There may be certain types of projects that you really need to focus on. So get all that in your calendar. That's really good advice, and pay attention to your energy. And there's nothing wrong with you. It's just what you need. And it is nice if you can take a nap. Not everybody's set up to be able to do that, but it's nice if you can work out your work and life, that you can do those kinds of things that are most effective for you.
Yeah, very much so. And I've got a little motto that I always say in my head as well that might help the listeners. And that's create before you consume, because we want to use and harness our creative energies first. And when we're consuming, whether it's scrolling online, reading the news, that's all going to start draining us. So really have your focus time, and I call it golden energy time, where you're at your highest points. And I very much schedule my work. So on Mondays and Fridays are generally very inward days for me. And I serve my clients, and I might do pieces of networking or connections generally in the middle of the week, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And the joy of it is, with online schedulers, you can set up all of this to make it very easy. So even your different types of work calls, you can have as different events that you send different links to. So you know exactly what's happening and when. And I think that's, for me, part of the boundary setting, because I can set up in my scheduler that I'm not going to have more than 3 client calls in a day, or I'm not going to have more than 2 networking calls. So it can balance, and it will do it automatically for me. So I really love how the tech is there to support us.
Yeah. It sounds like you've managed to get yourself in a very good place as an introvert in business. Let's
Taken
talk
20
about,
years, but yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And, I want to say that too, that there's people that aren't there yet, but guess what? Keep working at it. Keep chipping away at your life and your work. Look at your boundaries. Be able to explain to people why you need different things, and you'll get there. I've definitely done a lot of tweaks over my life, and it's not perfect, but I've managed to figure out how to be most effective. So let's talk about that. So you work with a lot of introverts in business. Tell us about, you've written a book, The Introvert Way Roadmap. You have the Sparkle frameworks. Tell us all about that.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of a story along the way with this because for a long time with my business, I was very much serving one-to-one. I was doing design and marketing and business strategy, but very much as a one-to-one consultant, what I'd say the old-fashioned traditional way of serving clients. And what happened is it was back in take you back to about October 2015, and I'd recently repatriated to the UK because I've actually lived in my lifetime 15 cities across 3 continents along the way, and I've moved around a lot, which is why I was working online so much as well, because for me that was the open door to my clients and helping support them. And it was back in 2015 when I thought, there's got to be a slightly different way that I can work and operate, because I was getting to a point of burnout and it was quite exhausting. And it was around then that there was a big impetus that I was seeing anyway. It could have just been in my bubble. We all know how these social algorithms work. But I was seeing a lot of online group trainings and courses beginning to come out of the sort of woodwork and people really signing up for them. And I thought that would be a really great way and place to focus. So back in 2015, I transitioned my business from serving one-to-one to serving in groups and supporting introverted entrepreneurs, because I realized that when I did get myself involved in some of these big online group programs, they were run by extroverts and they were pushing tools and techniques that blatantly just don't work for us as an introvert. They were saying, book 10 back-to-back phone calls, and before you know it, your calendar's going to be book solid. And that just felt like a huge stone lead heart, dropping to my floor at this point and going, I don't want to do that. And I met people in these communities going, I felt like I've had a black cloud over my head until I met you and you showed me the different way. So that sort of really triggered my passion for helping fellow introverts. And along the way, what happened is within all my programs, I've always drawn out a lot of frameworks. I've got a graphical design background. I went to art school and business school. I'm a real combination of the left and right brain. So whenever I hear about people's businesses, the processes, when they're talking about it, I've got a pen in my hand and I'm drawing out what their business looks like, and I'm creating a framework for them to follow. And I was sharing a lot of these in my courses. And have you ever had a time when you believe that some people come into your life for you to help them, but some people come into your life to help you? And what happened is this one client, Sam, she said, I love these frameworks that you do, but can I ask you a question, Susanna? What's the framework for your business? And it was at that moment I was like, it was like that huge light bulb moment. And I've been dropping frameworks and using them for all my clients, and I hadn't actually created one for my own business. And that's when I realized, how alike one I was with my clients, but I also needed to draw out the framework that all my programs were based on. And that was the Introvert Way roadmap. And as I drew out that framework, I then realized this was the ultimate framework. In fact, it was a whole book. It was the basis that I needed to talk about the descriptions and everything around it. And this happened in early 2021 that I realized, I need to bring this all together. But because I had the framework, I wrote the book in 6 weeks. I just got up in the morning. It was before the rest of the family was awoken. It's getting to that time. And I would just sit down and write for 2 hours each morning and just follow my framework and talk about the different areas and bring it together. And that was how the Introvert Way roadmap came about, because my clients, actually asked me for it. So this is sort of links into when we spoke about lean in, listen to your clients. Your clients are your best sort of purveyors of strategy for your business. Because I was then asked, well, what's your framework? And in my head, it was super clear. But as a very typical introvert, it had stayed in my head until I drew it out, then wrote it out and created the book. And so that was how the Introvert Way roadmap was created, where I laid out the 4 phases that I see all clients go through in their business, which starts with startup, and then there's a growth phase, momentum, and authority. And there's different areas at each of these stages that can really benefit for people to focus on, because a lot of business owners I was seeing leapfrogging and trying to run before they could walk in their business. And that's like the story behind how the book got written, the framework was created, and is very much why now I focus on creating business frameworks for my clients, because I've seen it as such a huge catalyst for them in their business. And the frameworks I create are called Sparkle frameworks because they bring that spark to the business. It's the ignition point for them to get true growth and momentum.
Yeah. Well, there's so many things I want to follow up on, but you hit on something. We do have a great capacity to think and have all these great ideas, but often we're not understood because they're in our head, and we need to really share them or get them down, like you're saying, into a framework so that we can actually do these great things that are in our heads, because we're great thinkers, but the visual aspect of it is so important. So how do you help people do that?
Well, one of the things that I do with this, because what's important with, if we want to make a framework more interesting, to create the Sparkle framework, because I didn't invent frameworks. We all know there's things like SMART goals. That's a framework. There's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. That's another framework, just so the listeners can begin to visualize these things. Is what I do is there's 5 core elements that a Sparkle framework needs to be woven in just to make it more interesting for people to get involved. And the first is absolutely, it needs to be visual, because we want to bring it out of our heads. It needs to be tangible and be able to be seen and eye-catching and read. And so we want to bring in the business brand. So I help people really dissect and see where their brand is and how they're connecting. The next stage is values, and it is 5 V's. So helpful to remember. That's part of frameworks as well, that we can use different tricks and patterns to help us remember them. So you need to also weave in your values. And what I mean here is your vision, your passion, your purpose, your core concepts. What is it about you and your lens, your view on the world that will bring people to you in your business? So we deep dive into the values and philosophies of the business as well. The next stage is it needs to be vocal, which means we speak. We speak our way through them. We don't just present them as a finished graphic. We introduce and we talk through the concepts along the way, because that way it really attracts and engages, and the audience can interact with it and take on the information one piece at a time, which makes it easier. The 4th V is vehicle. And this is the vehicle of your business. So whether it's a coaching package, a product, a service, an online course, or a membership, is your framework needs to lead people towards your business offer. So we need to make sure it's all woven in together and brings us towards the final 5th V, which is valid. It's got to be a trusted and proven process that shows authority, so you're seen as an expert in the area. Because if you've taken the time and effort to bring all those thoughts out of your head and bring it into a process which you then test and take clients or customers through, it then heightens your authority and makes you seen as a leader in your field. So I help my clients weave these 5 V's together to create a framework that really ignites them in their confidence, because suddenly they go, yeah, that's completely what I've been doing all this time, but I never knew how to verbalize it. I never knew how to show it, because the joy of a framework is it connects both the left and the right of the brain. So the left logical piece, we like systems, we like to know there's a process, it gives us expectations. But there's also the relatability piece, the emotion, the colors, the branding. Color psychology is another huge area I've investigated in the past that comes into this. And when we pull these 2 things together, we can connect to everyone in our audience, because we're reaching that combination, and we're all a mixture of those 2 things.
Yeah, that sounds great. And like I said, sometimes something might be so clear to us in our heads, but we need to make it clear to the others that we want to help or influence, and that kind of thing. So I like the name of Sparkle Frameworks. Tell us about Sparkle. How did you come up with that?
Well, Sparkle, again, huge. I'm a huge fan of big pieces of paper and Sharpies. And I will, for me, brain dumping galore. I am an artist back in the day anyway. And I was going through and thinking of all the words. I was like, I knew these frameworks. I had the term, it's a catalyst. It's helping people move and project. And then it occurred to me, actually, it's about taking a spark of an idea and making your business sparkling. And so the frameworks are Sparkle frameworks, because they're that ignition point that really help people show up and shine in their business so they can be sparkling in their own business. Because my mission is to have more introverted business owners really show up and shine in their own right. And the sparkle piece is very much like the stars in the sky. They attract attention. There's many there. They are all beautiful, but they've all got something important to say. So I liked the sort of softness that also comes with a sparkle. It's not a bang. So you can just be slowly generating and sharing your light like the stars in the sky.
Yeah, I love that. So helping introverts sparkle. And for some people, that may be a difficult thing to do. So how do you help people stand out?
Oh, I think that's quite an in-depth question.
Yeah,
There's so
yeah,
much
yeah,
meat in that. I'm like, oh, where to start? How long have we got? How do you
yeah.
make people stand out? It starts very much with them. It will always start with a conversation of me leaning in and listening and understanding where their passion is. And once we know where that is, and then connect with who their ideal people are, I take them through a process that absolutely also includes research. One of the biggest banes and bugbears that I see in the online business world in particular is people think they can skip the research stage. Market research, it's as old as time, and it's as old as time because it's needed. We need to understand not just what we can bring to the party, but what people would love us to contribute. It is a two-way process. So that is how I help my clients, is really by digging down. And I've got a series, I've got 27 of these Sparkle frameworks in my toolkit now. And each one is like a small micro training that triggers the thoughts and get the ideas out to give them the focus and clarity so they can begin to see, this is what I need to do in my business. And it starts with research, and it normally ends with them publishing what I call their signature offer. And this is the offer that's at the heart of the business, the offer that they want to be known and referred for and be recommended. Because as introverts, our ideal outcome of any form of networking is obviously to have someone else do the sales for us. So they can just say, hey, yeah, go work with Susanna. She's amazing. I've been through and done this sequence. And once you have the confidence and you're sharing caseloads and like testimonials, it's like, it really is a catalyst. It's the spark, the ignition that I set off in their business. So they've then got that motivation to keep the ball rolling and growing. And I do that through a group training program that I call the Spark Space. And that's where all these Sparkle frameworks are housed.
Yeah. And we've been talking about this. You definitely work a lot with introverts. So we can learn from everybody, introverts, extroverts. But there's just certain things that I think we can learn best from other introverts. Like you brought up, we may not approach networking in the same way, that type of thing. Is there anything that's just really stands out, like why an introvert could learn best from another introvert business coach versus just anybody?
For me, it's about understanding the energy boundaries and the natural inclination. So, for instance, in my training, I will, if it's one of the more intensive, I'm waving my fingers up with quotation marks here, which you won't
Yeah.
see on a podcast. But if it's more intensive, it's still once every 2 weeks, because I very much honor the pause. I call it the power of the pause, because when we're more introverted, you need to be allowed time for thoughts to sink in. You definitely need at least one sleep. So even when I run intensive sort of 3-day trainings, they're actually every morning, because I want the afternoons to let the brain wander, to digest. I'll tell people, go for a walk, get outside, and let your brain do its thing, because it's magical. Whereas I see more extroverted coaches would be like, right, instantly put it out there, just do it. You've got everything in action. And I'm very much for moving from thought into action. But I feel we have to honor that introvert side and allow the time we naturally want, because most of us are quite perfectionist in nature. So I see my job as an introvert focused coach is to absolutely allow you the time to think, but not too much time. I don't want you to overthink. I don't want you to procrastinate. So it's being able to know and pull the right strings in the right sequence, so you don't get burnt out and be like my colleagues who were part of these online programs where they said they had this black cloud descending. And it's because it was run by someone who didn't really understand their natural tendencies. So for me, that's where there's a huge advantage of at least working with someone who understands your introvert tendencies. I have come across some amazing extroverted coaches who've studied psychology and the personalities, and they respect that and they bring it into their training. But it is a question I would ask of any coach I work with is, are you happy to work in this way with me?
Yeah, that's such a great point, because I will say often introverts can learn best from other introverts on many different things. But there could be extroverts, and I've had a couple extrovert guests on my show where they do understand introverts, that they can be very effective. But that's what has to happen, is the understanding has to be there. And you gave such a great example, is often where we shine or sparkle is when we do take time to think. We don't always need time to think. Sometimes we'll come up with some great ideas on the spot, but often it is where you give yourself that time to let something roll around in your head, that you come up with something brilliant. And if you don't understand that, you're not going to be as effective. So a coach would need to understand, he or she's going to need to give that some thought. So that's a really good example.
Yeah. And what I tend to find as well is we're not quiet because we haven't come up with anything. It's normally because we've had 100 ideas pop into our brains and we're busy throwing out 99 before we want to speak about one of them or two of them. And that's kind of the difference. And I know I work with my own business mentor and coach, and I know this is my natural tendency. I'm always creating. And for me, the issue is not about creation. It's about simplifying and knowing where to focus. And that's how I got to where I am now. I didn't do it completely on my own because I think I would still be jumping around ideas, but it's taken time and focus. So I love coaching other introverts, but I also do need a coach myself as well to say, hang on, Susanna, and draw in the reins, or this sounds to be like the right direction. So I am a huge fan of using coaches and mentoring in the business space, because I think it's so hard, particularly if you're a sole business owner like I am, that we're juggling so many balls of what you need to do in your business. It's nice to have that outside focus and clarity and just extra pair of eyes and a cheerleader. At the end of the day, that's what I am for my clients. I'm their cheerleader, their sounding board. It's like a decision table to help them know they're going in the right direction in a sustainable way, which won't lead to burnout. That's aligned to their personality.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, this time has just flown by so fast, Susanna. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't yet?
Oh, I could go down so many rabbit holes that
Yeah, I know.
I think it's probably a wonderful place to stop. And I think the last thing I would just like to leave with the listeners is know that you do have superpowers inside of you. You don't have to change your natural tendencies, but it is really important, if you're feeling like you're playing small, is to reach out and get some support, because there's lots of amazing coaches and consultants, even in the introvert space now, who just do so many amazing things and really are there for you. So yeah, just do it. That's one of my favorite expressions. Just do it. Let's do this. You've got it. And just show up and shine.
Yeah, sounds wonderful. So, where can people find out more about the work you do and your book?
So the easiest place is on my website, which is susannareay.com, SUSANNAREAY. Bit of a funny spelling there of Ray. Or on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. And in fact, on Facebook, which I hadn't mentioned, which I definitely should, is I run a beautiful community called the Introvert Entrepreneurs Powerhouse. And it is free to join. If you just search that up on Facebook, you will find us. And yeah, quite often I run an expert series of talks, all free for the community, because my biggest goal is about collaboration and sharing our experience and wisdom, because together we're stronger.
Thank you. And thank you again for being on the show today. It's been great to have you, Susanna.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to further connecting with you. Reach out at david@quietandstrong.com, or check out the quietandstrong.com website, which includes blog posts, links to social media, and other items. Send me topics or guests you would like to see on the show. If you're interested in getting to know yourself better, there's now a free Type Finder personality assessment on the Quiet and Strong website. This free assessment will give you a brief report, including the 4-letter Myers-Briggs code. I'll add a link to the show notes. There's so many great things about being an introvert, so we need those to be understood. Get to know your introverted strengths and needs and be strong.